welcome to a quick walk through the first lab and the O'Reilly training about practical process automation. And what it basically teaches you is to set up a cluster of a managed workflow engine within Camunda Cloud, and then you model your first process and you deploy it there and run it there, right? So that's basically it. So if you follow the descriptions, you basically go to Camunda Cloud. I can log in directly. Otherwise, you create a new account and then you can also go for a 30 days trial and create a new cluster of our workflow engine. You might have a bit less options than me here, but what we go for is a development cluster. I just name it as you want. I name it O'Reilly Training. It should be a stable latest version in my current region, so that's fine. This will now start to provision, and that's basically all we have to do here. The next thing we basically do, we do that right away. We go to the API tab in order to create client credentials. So in order to access that workflow engine, you need certain credentials. This is my client. I'm pretty uncreative here. I create credentials, and what I always do, because if I close that window, they are gone. You can't recover them. You have to generate new ones. I just download them and just keep them open for later, right? So these are my credentials. It's basically the cluster ID. So that's kind of the address, the client ID I want to use, and a secret kind of a path code. Cool. That's all I need. The next thing you want to do here is you want to download the Camunda modeler. So if you follow that link, you can just download the latest version for your operating system. I already have prepared that and opened it. And there you can create a new process diagram. As we're targeting Camunda Cloud here, you select Camunda Cloud. You get a BPMN file where you just model your simple process, and we want to basically have a very simple approval process, because what everybody starts with, independent of what complex processes you do later on, is an approval. So something is requested here. That's the start of it. Then you want to have a user task, which basically pushes it to the task list and saying, please approve. Now you have two possibilities for the result of the approval. Is it approved? Yes. Then we do a service task, which automatically celebrate. So we automate the celebration. That's great. So if it's approved, we go there. If it's not approved, we just end. So it's not a very realistic business scenario, but that doesn't matter if you want to learn the technology. So this is it. We have to add a couple of things, but I can first show you that this will also hint you to the right thing. So I have to save, or I don't have to, but I should probably save the process model file somewhere on your disk. This normally goes into some kind of directory, which you then push on Git or whatever your version control system is. I just call it walkthrough BPMN for the moment to not intervene with the other models I have here. As soon as I have that, I can deploy it. This is this small button here. I can deploy it to my workflow engine in the cloud, right? And therefore, you could either go to a self-managed instance locally, or you go to the cloud instance, and then you have to provide exactly these credentials. So I need a cluster ID, which is this one. I need a client ID, which is this one. And I need the secret, which is this one. Oh, hang on, that was wrong. I always recommend to set this checkbox so you don't have to enter all these credentials again when you redeploy. And as you can see, nothing is red, so it seems to be okay to connect, and then I can deploy it. Now it tells me a couple of problems with the process model. So for example, the flow, which I haven't like named, so they have these cryptic IDs, don't have a condition, and the task definition is not existent. We're currently improving the modeler, by the way, to show these on the elements. But for the moment, I just wanted to show you that if it's not automatable, the workflow engine basically rejects the model. So what do I have to do? I have to basically tell the workflow engine what to do in this case. So go this or the other way. So in this case, I want to go here if approved equals true, I can skip. So if approved, then this way. And here I basically say if approved equals false. So if I'm not approved, I go this way. And then for the user task, I actually don't have to provide anything specific here. So this should be okay to go. For the celebration, I have to define a task type. We will see that in lab 2 when I connect code to it. So this is kind of like a topic or a queue name in messaging to connect the code to the right endpoint, and then I just call that celebrate. You will see that in lab 2. Why? Okay, and then I give the process a more meaningful ID. In my case, I just, okay, O'Reilly is not really very meaningful, but at least quick for the moment. You could also name it like approval, for example. Maybe I do that, approval. So, deployed. There we go. Deployment succeeded. So what you can do now, if you go back to your Cloud Console, you can see that there are a couple of applications you can go into. So one is Operate. Operate is the operations tool. So there you can see what's currently going on in your workflow engine. What you can see is that my approval process got deployed, but there's nothing running at the moment, which is not a big surprise actually. But what you can do now is you could go back to your modeler and you can kick off a new instance of that process. So if I do that, a new process instance was started. So if I go back to my operate instance and do a refresh here, we can see that there is now one instance. It's waiting at the user task to approve. You see like a couple of timestamps. You can go into the details and see even like more timestamps here and all these kind of interesting things. And the other thing you can do is you can go to the task list, which is the end user interface, working on human tasks within the process. And there I see my task here. I should approve. In order to do that, I need to claim the task because multiple people might look at the list at the same time. So only the first one claiming it wins, right? And now I can work on the task, like I look at the data and whatever. In this small demo, I don't have much data, but I still need to approve. And as we haven't configured any form, so we could configure a form and attach it here so we see a real form. But for today, we don't focus on the task handling too much. So I just use a very generic mechanism to add process variables to say, okay, this was approved, right? And then I can complete the task. And maybe I start one more. Go back to my task list. Should see the task in a minute. If I go back to operate, what you can see is that the one we looked at earlier has moved on to celebration. And this is what we implement in the next lab. And the other one is, again, waiting here in the task list. I can claim it, and just for the sake of it, I say this is not approved. And this, just to make that hint again, this refers to this process variable. So this is stored as a process variable, and then I can use it in expressions or in services later on. I complete that, go back and operate. If I refresh here, it might take a second. I see that the other one now went this way, right? So if I look into that, you can also see the data. You can see that this is approved equals false. This is why it went this way. And for the other process instance, this was the other way around. Approved equals true. And we're still waiting here. So now it's waiting for some code to pick up that work and continue it. And that's what we do in the next lab, in the next recording.